If you grew up in the 80s or 90s, you definitely remember these as seen on TV childhood products, and how ridiculous they really were. Imagine begging your parents for moon shoes after watching those wild ads, only to get banned from school for bringing them. Or the promise of Sock Em Boppers, landing your brother in the ER and your family the subject of a 1998 lawsuit. We all fell for the hype. Crafts that ruined couches, gadgets that never worked, and fads so infamous some were recalled within months. But why did millions of us chase these disasters, and what made them such a huge part of our childhood memories? The answer starts with the 5 most outrageous TV toy flops. Wait until you remember just how far the disappointment could go. Moon shoes promised every kid a shot at zero gravity, right in the backyard. The commercials showed kids leaping like astronauts, grinning from ear to ear, while the voiceover called them mini trampolines for your feet. But the reality hit hard, and sometimes literally. The plastic frames pinched ankles, the straps slipped, and by 1993, emergency rooms were patching up twisted knees and sprained wrists from playground wipeouts. School districts wasted no time. Moon shoes landed on banned lists from New Jersey to California. According to retro toy blogs and Consumer Product Safety Commission injury files, one Chicago principal called them a lawsuit waiting to happen. Sock Em Boppers came swinging into late 90s living rooms with a jingle that stuck in your head for weeks. More fun than a pillow fight. The ads made it look like pure, harmless chaos. In practice, they deflated, slipped off, and sometimes left your opponent with a nosebleed. The Consumer Product Safety Commission logged dozens of emergency room visits for facial bruises and eye bumps in 1998 alone. By spring of 1999, parent-teacher newsletters in Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago all named Sock Em Boppers as officially banned from school. That same year, Mattel sued Big Time Toys, claiming the name was too close to their classic Rock'em Sock'em robots. The result? A national rebrand and a generation of kids who learned that inflatable didn't mean safe. Parents who caved to the TV hype often regretted it as soon as the first playground accident or sibling smackdown happened. But for kids, the thrill was worth the risk, at least until the principal confiscated the evidence. The pattern was set. Wild marketing, desperate begging, a few glorious minutes of chaos, and then the harsh reality of school bans and parental side-eye. Would kids today fall for the same tricks if they popped up on TikTok? Absolutely, right up until the next trip to the nurse's office. Which one of these did you, or your friends, get in trouble for? Tell us before the next disaster hits your memory. Like and subscribe if you ever begged for one of these must-have toys. Floam arrived in a neon avalanche, promising every kid the power to sculpt anything. Monsters, castles, even full-on desk organizers, just like the late-night Nickelodeon ads. The commercials showed hands squeezing, squishing, and shaping blobs of bright, bumpy foam, while a voice insisted, "It's not a liquid, not a solid, it's floam." But the reality was closer to a sticky nightmare. According to internal Nickelodeon memos from 1994, executives worried about floam staining sofas and carpets, and the product's shelf life was so short that unopened tubs sometimes arrived dry and crumbly. Parents groaned as little bits of floam stuck to upholstery, hair, and even the family dog. Label changes in 1997 quietly dropped the easy cleanup claim after a wave of complaints to the FTC. Chia Pets took a different approach, inviting kids to grow a pet with nothing but water and a little patience. The ads promised lush green fur on everything from hedgehogs to Homer Simpson. In practice, most chia creatures sprouted patchy tufts or, worse, grew nothing but mold. By the late 1990s, state attorney generals had forced the company to clarify that results may vary. Yet over 15 million chia pets still found their way into American homes, usually as gag gifts from aunts and grandparents. According to a 1998 collector's survey, chia pets were one of the most returned holiday gifts in the country, right behind singing fish plaques and novelty ties. The clapper jumped into living rooms with the promise of hands-free magic. Clap your hands and the lights turn on or off. The jingle, clap on, clap off, became an instant earworm. But the gadget was so sensitive it triggered at the sound of laughter, barking dogs, or even the TV itself. According to a 1992 ad revision, the company quietly changed its slogan from "works every time" to "works best in quiet rooms." Kids loved showing off the trick to friends, but parents soon learned that a single movie night could plunge the whole house into darkness. The clapper became a running joke at family gatherings, equal parts party trick and household headache. Every one of these products was a lesson in hype versus reality. The commercials made them look like the future of fun, but most end up as sticky messes, kitchen counter eyesores, or the reason for a sheepish apology to your parents. Would today's kids fall for Floam's squishy promise or the clapper's hands-free magic if they scrolled past them on TikTok? Probably, at least until the first mess or blackout. And if you thought these were bad, just wait until the next round of beauty gadgets and miracle blades. Spray-on hair was supposed to be the miracle answer for anyone with a patchy scalp, or at least anyone desperate enough to trust late-night TV. The infomercials made it look like magic, a quick spray, a full head of hair, and instant confidence. But in 1994, a live shopping channel demo went off the rails. The can jammed, the color splattered, and the poor model's head turned into a streaky, dripping mess. According to Adweek, Ronco's call center was flooded with over 350 complaints in just 1 hour. Viewers demanded refunds, prank calls jammed the lines, and the host could barely keep a straight face as the camera cut away. Ronco scrambled to edit out the disaster, but the damage was done. For years, spray-on hair meltdown became a punchline on late-night TV and collector blogs. Ginsu knives were another TV staple, slicing through cans, shoes, and even bricks in the commercials, always with a perfectly clean tomato at the end. But the real letdown came with the knockoff blades that flooded catalogs in late-night bundles. The ads promised slice anything, but Consumer Reports found most knockoffs dulled after just 3 uses. In one 1991 test, half the blades couldn't cut a tomato after 3 back-and-forth strokes. Home cooks who fell for the hype ended up sawing through bread or tearing up veggies, and kitchen supply stores reported a wave of returns. The original Ginsu held up longer, but the imitators turned Miracle Blade into a running joke. Then came the Topsy Tail, a plastic loop that promised perfect ponytail flips and endless hair designs in seconds. The commercial showed kids and moms transforming plain ponytails into intricate twists with a single pull. But at home, the results were a tangled mess. The loop bent, hair snagged, and the promised styles looked nothing like the ad. According to collector forums and 90s beauty blogs, frustrated kids gave up after a few attempts, and the Topsy Tail ended up buried in the bathroom drawer. Each of these products turned TV hype into real-life cringe. Spray-on hair melted on live TV, Ginsu knockoffs quit by the 3rd slice, and Topsy Tail made hairstyling look easy, until it wasn't. Would today's kids still fall for Beauty in a Box or Miracle Blades if they scrolled past them on TikTok? Judging by the endless viral fail videos, some things never change. Magic Sand promised to turn every kitchen table into an underwater wonderland. The commercial showed bright grains pouring through water, sculpting towers and castles that never got wet, all set to a hypnotic jingle. Kids stared in awe as the sand clumped together, refusing to mix with water, and begged their parents for a box. The pitch was simple. Build anything, no mess, just magic. But the first handful was all it took to realize the real magic was in the cleanup, because once magic sand left the water, it stuck to everything. Tiny grains wedged into carpet fibers, vanished into couch cushions, and left a gritty trail across the linoleum. According to a 1995 package insert, parents were warned to avoid drains and use a vacuum for spills, but by then, the damage was done. Moon sand followed in the 90s, promising a mess-free upgrade. The ads claimed it would never dry out, never crumble, and could be molded over and over. But the reality was a different story. Moon sand clung to shoes, socks, and pet paws, leaving a pastel trail from the kitchen to the bathroom. According to a 1989 consumer warning, some batches even included special disposal instructions. Do not flush or pour down sinks. Complaints poured into hotlines, and by the late 90s, a free replacement program quietly appeared on the company's website. Parents found themselves vacuuming for days, discovering clumps months later in the most unlikely places. Kids, meanwhile, stayed fascinated by the strange hydrophobic texture, pouring, poking, and shaping it again and again, even as the grown-ups groaned. The lunar branding was irresistible, with boxes promising out-of-this-world fun, but the only thing that felt cosmic was the cleanup. Would today's kids fall for the indoor beach fantasy if it popped up on TikTok? Probably, at least until the first time someone tried to vacuum the living room. One thing's for sure, magic sand and moon sand turned every play session into a domestic disaster, and every parent into an amateur carpet cleaner. Pogo ball looked like pure playground magic in the ads. Just hop on, bounce, and suddenly you're the coolest kid at recess. The reality was more like a slapstick audition. The plastic ring wobbled if your feet weren't perfectly placed, and the ball itself was notorious for popping mid-jump. According to a 1988 CPSC hazard report, dozens of kids ended up with scraped elbows and bruised shins. By the early 1990s, some schools put pogo ball on their banned list, citing repetitive injury risk in PTA newsletters. Teachers grew tired of policing bounce-offs during recess, and moms learned to stash the box on the highest shelf after the first living room disaster. Gawk was Nickelodeon's answer to what if a toy could gross out every adult in the house. The commercials promised endless squishing, stretching, and fart noises, courtesy of a neon blob that looked radioactive. But the real shock came from the smell. Internal Nickelodeon memos from 1993 flagged early batches for a chemical odor that lingered on hands, hair, and anything it touched. Lab tests published in a 1994 toy magazine found traces of phthalates, and the FTC fielded enough parent complaints that the formula was tweaked by 1995. Still, the stench stuck around in playground legend. School custodians reported scraping dried gack off desks and carpets for months, and some districts quietly added it to their no slime policies after a few too many hallway slip-ups. Mighty Max mini play sets arrived with the promise of epic adventure in your pocket. The commercials showed Max battling monsters and dodging traps, all in a toy that fit in your palm. But the figures were so tiny, less than an inch tall, that most kids lost them within the first week. According to a 1993 product critique in Toy Collector Monthly, parents complained about impossible-to-find accessories and choking hazard warnings tucked into the fine print. The scale mismatch was legendary. The monster looked huge in the ad, but barely covered a thumbnail in real life. Kids who begged for the adventure usually ended up with a handful of plastic and a missing Max. School bans, weird smells, and microscopic letdowns. These products turned hype into high comedy and left a generation of kids with stories to trade at lunch. Would today's kids fall for the same tricks on TikTok? Only until the first bounce, stink, or missing piece. Skip It was the playground status symbol of the late 1980s and early 1990s, hyped as a fitness game that counted every jump with a spinning clicker. The commercials showed kids racing to beat high scores, swinging the plastic loop around their ankles and laughing as the counter spun faster and faster. But anyone who owned one remembers the reality. That mechanical counter was notorious for breaking, jamming, or just giving up after a few days. School nurses saw a steady stream of scraped shins and twisted ankles, and the plastic ball left scuff marks on kitchen floors across America. According to product forums and nostalgic toy blogs, complaints about stuck counters and busted straps were as common as the toy itself. No kid ever trusted that number for more than a week. Magic twist hair beads promised instant braids and colorful beads at the touch of a button. The late-night ads made it look effortless. A quick twist, a snap, and you'd have a salon-worthy hairstyle. In practice, the battery-powered gadget was more likely to snarl hair than style it. Kids would sit cross-legged on bedroom floors hoping for a magazine makeover, but end up with tangled knots or beads that slipped out before the school bus arrived. Parents flooded customer service hotlines with complaints, and return requests piled up at toy stores. Collector forums and 1990s beauty blogs still swap horror stories about the device eating hair or jamming mid-braid, forcing a trip to the salon just to undo the mess. For every TV promise of easy glam, there was a real-world letdown, usually followed by a sheepish apology and a new pack of detangling spray. The legacy of these gadgets lives on in playground legends and bathroom drawer graveyards. School nurses, stylists, and exhausted parents all have stories about the day a Skip It or magic twist hair beads turned a regular afternoon into a minor disaster. Would today's kids fall for the same infomercial magic if it popped up on their phones? Probably, at least until the first jammed counter or hair emergency. These were the final acts in the great As Seen on TV comedy of errors. A fitting close to an era when hype, hope, and heartbreak came in a single box. By 1995, Americans had bought more than 15 million Chia Pets. Yet by the same year, school districts were banning moon shoes and pogo balls for safety concerns. A sharp contrast between TV promises and playground reality, all captured in official records. Across all 15 products, the evidence shows a common pattern. Bold infomercial claims, excited kids, and a wave of returns, recalls, or regulatory warnings. Some, like Sock Em Boppers, even led to lawsuits and injury reports filed with the CPSC. Despite thousands of complaint calls logged, such as the 350 in just 1 hour for spray-on hair, many questions remain about the full extent of these products' impact on childhood expectations and family spending. Today, kids encounter similar hype on social media, proving the cycle continues. As documented by catalog scans and hotline ads, these products were more than just toys. They shaped a generation's sense of wonder and disappointment. Cheap, ridiculous, unforgettable. These As Seen on TV fads remind us how nostalgia is built not just on what we loved, but on what let us down.